This rag is called Hamsadvani, Hamsa, swan. Hamsadvani, song of the swan, right? And it uses only 5 notes in the scale. It only uses that's it. And that's why it gets its beautiful melodious character. So we know that there is a science to sound. Our Indian classical masters know it. The Western classical masters knew it. So, which is why we have early morning rags, afternoon rags, evening rags, night rags. If you listen to Vivaldi's Four Seasons and you listen to spring, you will see spring, right? So there is a legacy of music which goes into the science of how you can create combinations of notes, of rhythms, rhythmic patterns, etc., to put the listener into different moods. Now, let's just take the first 3 notes of this scale that we just played, and then we'll just change the 3rd note, right? So let's do the first 3 notes. Everybody heard that? Now I'm going to change only the 3rd note. First 2 notes were the same. Did you get a different feeling? Yeah? You went into melancholy. You went into dusk. With the original composition, there's no way you can see night. You will see day. But with a change of 1 note, you could move from morning to night, right? So this is really where the whole journey began. And we said, if we're able to understand the science of sound and map it to the persona of brands and the values or the emotional essence of a brand, can we start creating templates of sound which then can become identities for brands? And that really is what brand music is all about. And so what we just demonstrated was the power of sound. And this is the whole world. We know that when we listen to pieces of music, there's something happening inside us. Some neurons are firing. Some dopamine is being released. And that's why you get into, when you listen to A piece of music, you feel excited, or you listen to B piece of music, you feel sad, right? So that's really the power of sound. And this whole space is hugely underutilized by brands, by brand owners, by marketers. We spoke of the jingle earlier. So the jingle is still the currency. But we are saying, hey, let's go a little deeper. Let's look at sound as a sonic identity system, like you would when you create a visual identity, right? When you create a visual identity, you have a logo, you have a set of colors that go with your brand, you have a font style that goes with your brand. And how does this come about? It comes about because there's a study of the brand holistically, and then the entire visual palette is created. So we said, can we do the same thing with sound? And you've heard of touch points? Well, we say brands don't just need visual consistency across touch points, but they need audio consistency across ear points, right? So it's a term that we've created called ear points. And another term we've created is a term called the MOGO, or short form for musical logo. We'll talk a little more about. So this is brand music. Mr. Ajit Verma is silently sitting there. He's always behind us and supporting us. So we design and manage the sonic identity of brands. And early on in our journey, we used to design the sound of a brand, the master sound, and sort of hand it over. But today, more and more brands are coming back and saying, hey, sound is such a crazy animal. If we give it to music director A, he interprets it in a certain way. If we give it to music director B, he interprets it in a completely different way. So how do I maintain the tonality of my master sound? So we are more and more getting into managing the sound with the creative agencies, with the digital agencies, almost being sort of sonic guardians of the brand sound. one of the things we realized was, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, that we needed a process. And we have a very, very simple, intuitive process. I'll briefly take you through it. Once we are sort of commissioned, we first have a brand discovery session so that we understand the brand in sort of terms that relate to sonic, and keep it very simple. You all are all familiar with Carl Jung's archetypes. So we use what we call avatars, and we know that brands can be slotted across different avatars too. So Apple is a creator brand, J&J Baby is a caregiver brand, Mercedes is a ruler brand, so on and so forth. This is the entire brand mapping. But this is also interesting that, in a category, say wellness, all brands are caregivers. Then how do you differentiate between one caregiver brand and the other? So let's take the example of 3 rulers, and this is a very interesting example. So if you take ruler 1 and you attach the subdominant of sage, it becomes Emperor Ashoka. You take ruler plus explorer, becomes Alexander, and ruler plus jester becomes Trump. Yeah? So it just shows how 3 rulers, just by attaching a subdominant, can actually create a very distinct identity for themselves. The second question we ask is, what is your brand rasa? Or what is the key emotion of your brand? And here, we take the help of the Navarasas of Indian artistic expression, which range from love, laughter, compassion, anger, etc. And it becomes very interesting when you match the avatar and rasa, and that really creates that leads to the creation of sound. Now, if we look at what we do in the next stage is, once the avatar rasa is decided, we actually create, and we know, Merlin, right? If you create a sort of, if you say, I'm a hero brand, right? There are heroic sounds that everybody will immediately recognize as a hero, right? So something like this.
Symphony.
Volume.
Symphonic.
This is a hero, right? You can feel the hero walking down. Can you see a mother with a baby in her arms? Or so you got the idea. Basically, so we've created sonic templates for the avatars and rasas. And then we actually, once we understand the zone of sound of the brand, we begin to create what we call the mogo. And what is a mogo? Is it just a bunch of notes that, associated with the brand wherever it's heard? Or is it something deeper than that? And we believe it's deeper than that. So we believe a mogo should go beyond just brand recognition, but it should also trigger brand emotion. Just as the piece of music that we played got you all a rich imagery. How do you evoke this brand imagery? And one way to do it is to create a mogoscape. So a mogoscape is like a 90-second piece of music that we create, which actually captures all the essential persona and emotional values of the brand. So let's have a little fun, yeah? So Merlin's going to play a mogo, some mogos. And do we have any sweets to throw around?
Yeah, there are prizes.
Yeah. Okay, you all need to guess the mogo. Yeah? Okay, let's go. Okay.
I got it.
Heard, when it, at the height of its popularity, heard 1.5 billion times a day across the globe, right? But we believe that Nokia actually missed a trick because it remained at the level of recognition. Imagine when you hear this, if emotions also flowed with it. Right? Got it? Raymond. So we are handling all the sound for Raymond. And it was a fantastic project because this is a 16th century composition by Schumann. And it was associated with Raymond, but with Raymond doing an image makeover, which wanted to move more into the premium fashion kind of imagery, we said, look, you cannot associate the sound of a 16th century composition with the 21st century, right? The new millennium. So we have actually retained the melody, but we've kept refurbishing it with newer and newer expressions using modern instruments, etc. And we've extracted a mogo. So if you went to a consumer and said, what is the Raymond tune? It's very difficult to hum it. So we said, can we identify four notes which when played along with the Raymond logo at the end of all your ads will start becoming recognized. And those 4 or 5 notes are?
Yeah.
That's it, right? So this is some of the stuff we're doing. Any other mogo we can play? Okay, so the exercise is now, again, this is a long piece. It needs like 40 seconds, 45 seconds. How do we get it down to 3 seconds? I mean, everybody knows this piece. What are the notes that we can extract from this to just make, you just hear that and you know, wow, that's the Titan tune, right? Okay, great. So let's hear something else. You won't be able to guess it, but it's something that we've been associated with. It's a very big brand across the globe. It will be reaching these shows soon.
Yeah. Okay. 140 countries, right?
Yeah. Can't say more. Anyway, great. So so this is the interesting conversation that, today, and Ajit was touching upon it, about, ear points. We believe we are, approaching an audio-first era, right? So it's amazing already, voice-activated speakers, voice-activated purchase, right? So it's very possible that you could be talking to Alexa and you just say, Alexa, buy me so-and-so, and the mogo of the credit card that you purchased it from could play, right? So there's audio, there's apps, there's UI, UX, there's the whole world of customer experience zones, all of which are not necessarily associated with communication, but it could also appear on your TV ads. Now imagine a consistency of this sound right across all these ear points, and subliminally you're starting to build a brand presence, even where there is no real estate. Where you cannot put your logo, for example, you could put your mogo. So this is what marketers are finding very interesting, and we've been in the business for about 6 years. And I think the first 2 years was more meetings than business, because it was a new concept and we had to, evangelize it. But today, we believe we are on the cusp. Hopefully, brand music is at a strategic inflection point, I think, which is great, not just for us, but I think for the entire marketing fraternity, because we are the only people doing this in Asia, right? There is no other sonic branding firm in Asia. There are sonic branding firms in the West, but we hope we can ride the wave. Great. So let's just hear some of the stuff we've done, right? Yeah, sure.
So Rajiv was talking about the 5 notes, right? So this is how Vistara happened. And their avatars and rasas were caregiving, right? Caregiver.
And explorer.
And explorer. And carefree. So it's like an antithesis, right? Carefree and yet caregiving. So there's abandon and there's compassion, because we care about you. The airline cares about you. So we've put this into the Mogoscape and shall we play it?
So have a listen. Now we move into the explorer soaring the skies.
Carefree. You're reaching your destination now. So those are your notes.
Anybody want to sing out the Mogo?
Can you sing it
Thank
for
you,
us?
thank
Come
you.
on.
Louder claps, please.
Can you sing the 5 notes for us? So next time you're sitting on the aircraft of Vistara Airlines, think of us. Right?
Lovely. So, ta-ra-ra-ra. That's the Mogo, right? Okay. Actually,
And it can be played in any instrument, right? It could be a voice, depending on your emotion. It could be a flute. It could be a piano.
Yeah. And each time you play a different instrument, the emotion is slightly different. So it could be used for different applications. So if you're, for example, using it off an app, maybe we'd use a sharper sound that can cut through on the small speakers of the app or your mobile phone. So these are little technical things that we do. Every startup needs a big break. And about 2 years back, we got one precious hour with Mr. Aditya Puri of HDFC Bank, where we presented, actually we had only Vistara at that time as one of the big brands that we had created work for. And Mr. Puri absolutely loved our approach and said, I want to be the first Indian bank to do this, and I want it done in the next 3 months. His senior leadership team was involved in the creation of the sound for HDFC Bank. And let's have a listen, then maybe
we break it down?
We can. Yeah, you want to
break it down?
Break it down?
Okay,
Yeah.
so here the avatars were never ending. So how do you incorporate the sound of never ending, right? That emotion into music. That means it's cyclic.
Almost moving towards the future, looking ahead with a very strong Indian soul, but with a global sound too, a very contemporary world kind of sound.
Never ending?
Yeah.
Never ending?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So
and always moving, so you'll hear the sound, right?
Any of you all heard this?
When you pull out your credit card, right?
It's spreading, it's spreading. That's good news. So it takes time